and today I want to talk to you about graphing lines. This is a very important skill to pick up early on in your algebra class because you're going to be graphing lines and other things quite often. So we're going to take three approaches in doing this. We'll start graphing lines with the plotting point method. Next we'll move on to intercepts. And finally we'll look at the slope-intercept form to graph a line. Let's go ahead and start with the first approach, which was the plotting point method. Since we're talking about lines, I'm just going to go ahead and write down the general equation of a line. Y is equal to mx plus b. Now I'm going to suggest some things for you to follow that'll make this process very easy. So the first thing you want to do is make sure your equation is already solved for y. So for example, if you were given this equation y plus 1 is equal to 2x, notice that the y is not completely by itself here because you have the 1. And so if we look at the standard form, y is completely by itself here. So I know that the plus 1 is the problem here, and I know if I do the opposite operation, I could get rid of that. So I'm going to minus the 1 on both sides here. That's going to cause these to cancel here, and I'm going to get y is equal to 2x, and I just subtracted a 1 over to the other side. Now, y is solved for it. It's going to make my computations much easier when I plug certain x values in. So that's the first thing you want to do. Second thing you want to do is just go off to the side and make a table. Not the kind of table they eat food on, but an x and y table. Okay? Now the thing with this plotting point method, I do want to mention this is a bit time consuming, so I'm just going to pick a couple for you. And the ones I'm going to pick are going to be near the origin just for my convenience. The x value at the origin itself is 0. I'm going to pick a point to the left, 1 unit to the left, which would be -1. And I'll pick another unit just to the right of that, +1. Again, you can pick 1,000,000 or 1,000 or -5. It really doesn't matter for this plotting point method. Okay, let me go ahead and erase that. This was the equation given. I put it into standard form by solving for y. Y equals 2x minus 1. I'm going to input a value of -1 into the x. So where I see an x, I'm no longer going to write x, I'm going to write -1 now. 2 times -1 will be -2. Take 1 away from that, you'll have y is equal to -3. So the partner for this x value here will be a -3, and these guys together are going to create a point for me on the xy plane. And I've been saying point a lot, so if you're sick of hearing that in your math class, or your professor might refer to it as an ordered pair. So they're the same thing, a point and ordered pair. So this is an ordered pair here. I'm going to have to do that 2 more times and we'll be on our way, guys. So 0, I'm going to plug a 0 into this x now. Y is equal to 2, I'm going to input 0 for x now. Recall anything times 0, 0. So I'm going to have 0 minus 1. If you don't take anything away, or just nothing minus 1, that'll be -1. So I get out another ordered pair or a point. Right, so I have 2 points now, and I do want to mention you only need 2 points to graph a line. 1's not enough. Whew, I'm forgetting how to breathe too on this thing. Okay, 2 is enough to graph a line. I'm just going to do one more since we're doing the plotting point method, but just keep that in mind. You only need 2 points to graph a line. Okay, one more time, and we're finished. 2x minus 1. I'm going to input a value of 1 into my x now. Y is equal to 2, that x is a 1 now, minus 1. Y is equal to, recall anything times 1 is itself, so that will be 2 minus 1, and that will give me 1. Okay, so now I have 3 points on, now that we did some computations and got 3 points out, let's go ahead and plot them on here. Just a little refresher, if you want to plot a point or an ordered pair, you want to always start right here at the origin. We know that the origin has the points 0, 0. Now, if you always move in the x direction first when plotting a point. If your x value is negative, you're going to move to the left of the origin. If your x value is positive, like this one here, we're going to move to the right of the origin. Because you see the x-axis is your horizontal and your y-axis is your vertical. So x only moves left and right, and y moves up and down. So for example, -1, -3. I'm going to start with the x value, which is -1. First, actually, I'm going to start at the origin. Then, -1, so I'm going to move to the left 1 unit. And make sure you don't actually put a point there, because it's going to, you want to just rest your hand there, but don't actually make the point there, it's going to get confusing. We're going to move over 1 unit to the left, and from there we're going to move down 3 units, because it's a -3. So, from the origin, move over 1 unit to the left, 3 units down. So this point would represent this ordered pair here, -1, -3. Moving on, let's plot this point, 0, -1. Again, I'm going to start at the origin right here, but since it's 0 this time, I'm not going to move at all in any x direction, left or right. I'm just going to move 0 units. And from there, I'm going to move down 1 unit because it's a negative y value. So I'm going to start at the origin, 0 is the x value, not going to move at all, and from there, I'm just going to move down 1 unit from there. So this point would represent this ordered pair here, 0, -1. And just one more, and then we'll be done. So 1, 1, start at the origin right here, +1, so I'm going to move to the right 1 unit, and from there I'm going to move up 1. So move over 1 in the right, move over up 1, and that should do it. So now if I were to connect this dot, or point, to this one, to that one, it would generate a line, right? So I'm going to try my best here to connect these dots. So, but I'm missing one part, because if I were to just draw it like that, this is a line segment. But our equation I could plug in, remember I could plug in a million, -5, it goes on forever. So I have to attach arrows onto the ends here, letting people know that this thing goes on forever. Okay? And that's pretty much it with the plotting point method. Okay, still going with the plotting point method. I just want to show you another scenario. What if your equation had a fraction in it? I would just have another suggestion for you to add on to your list of suggestions. And that is that if you have a fraction and you want to use the plotting point method, go ahead and pick x values that are multiples of the denominator, or this bottom guy in the fraction, as I've listed out here for you. Now, why don't you want to pick a number that's a multiple of 3, or this bottom guy? Well, I'll show you. Let's pick 1, which is not a multiple of 3. Let's see what happens when I input that in my equation. -2/3, I'm going to put a 1 in there. Y is equal to anything times 1 is itself, plus 1. I got to get an LCD here. When you get an idea of what that looks like, it's 0.3. These give me a better representation of what they look like. So, who wants to plot 1, 0.3? What happens there? You get y is equal to -2/3. I'm going to input a 3 into there, plus 1. Look at these guys. They just slice and dice right up. 3 divided by 3 is 1. You get -2 plus 1. Y is equal to -1. Now this point is gorgeous. It's beautiful, isn't it? Honestly. You'd want to plot that as opposed to this one, wouldn't you? Because I would. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get nice ordered pairs out. I'll maybe just do one more for you. Let's go ahead and do 12 maybe. Y is equal to -2/3, input 12 in there, plus 1. They don't slice and dice up this time, but 3 will cut that up into 4 pieces, right? 12 divided by 3. 4 times -2 is -8, plus 1. That'll give you -7. Forgot my x value there, but I told you it was 12, right? For x, we put a 12 in, and we got out a -7. Just as good as the other ones, because those will be much more efficient for me to plot on the xy plane. So that's pretty much it. If you have a fraction and you're trying to do the plotting point method, pick x values that are multiples of the denominator.